Number 1. Ego and thinking you're too good for something. Now you might be thinking to yourself, I don't have an ego problem, I suck balls drawing and no one will ever care about what I make. And well, firstly, been there, done that, hang in there, someone eventually will, don't worry. But secondly, ego just means your sense of self-worth, and this battle of self-depreciation is technically still an ego issue. It's not just the loud and proud kind, you know, the really dangerous one, or much more subtle in my opinion, like, let's say, critiques. Art is a very personal thing, and so it's very easy to feel criticism towards art as a direct personal attack towards yourself. Even more so if it's from someone who is supposedly lesser skilled. It's very easy to flare up and disregard the critique as, you just don't get it, or what do you know about drawing even, or the dreaded, it's just my style, bro. And if it's on a bad day and you're in a bad mood, it can't be helped, right? That's fine. But if you're finding yourself consistently disregarding genuine, well-intentioned feedback because you personally don't agree with it, or you think the person is not qualified to give it, that's not good, okay? Not just in art, but life in general too. External feedbacks are usually always a net positive to your life if you keep your mind and ears open. It might not make sense to you at the moment, but it doesn't mean that it's useless or not applicable. I once had an art teacher who forced us to paint instead of relying on line art because that's just how he does things and he wants to teach us in that kind of stuff. And I remember being super frustrated and annoyed because like, dude, what the heck? I don't even draw like this. Stop trying to force your dumb workflow upon us. And I was just tuning out a lot of his lecture most of the time because, you know, he was talking about palettes and brushstrokes or whatever else, and I was a line art Andy, okay? I assumed those things were not applicable to me, so I just disregarded them. But it wasn't until later in 2024 that I realized that maybe his insistence on us not relying on line art to convey form is because in painting, you have to be a lot more mindful of your shapes and how they exist in the canvas, and in drawing, he was basically trying to teach us spatial reasoning, which is like the single most important fundamental in visual art, through the context of digital painting. Because it was never about learning how to paint directly, but my dumb ego and I guess sense of pride and stubbornness kept me from realizing that. Overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer. Sometimes, especially if you're a beginner, you just gotta tell your ego to shut up and listen to people who probably know a lot more than you, okay? And in fact, I think it's best to just constantly adopt that beginner mindset, regardless of your actual skill level, so you don't take that sense of bias with you when approaching a new topic or approach with a contrasting opinion. Number 2, lack of patience and negative reinforcement. We all know this art thing takes a while to get good at, but you don't really feel the weight of that statement until you're actually in the thick of it. And it's easy, understandable, and relatable even to want that magical pill that can just instantly make you a god-tier artist overnight, right? I think deep down we all wish it was just easier and faster to get to where we want to be. It's fun to be frustrated and angry, but if you're finding yourself consistently frustrated and angry after every drawing session, that's a big sign that something ain't right. Every time you walk away from a drawing with negative emotion on your mind, sooner or later you'll start to associate the act of drawing itself with those negative emotions. And I mean, obviously, not only is it just not fun at all to deal with all of that, and it'll cripple your passions and desire to participate in the act itself, it's also going to make you more inclined to rush, get sloppy, and trying to cut corners. And ironically, all of that is just going to make the final result even worse, reinforcing those negative feelings and trapping you in this nasty cycle of me make bad art, me angry me performs worse, and repeat. In general, the more thoughts and attention you give to a specific feeling, the stronger it will get. And all feelings are worth feelings, of course, but the problem is when you start to unhealthily dwell upon them and act on them in a self-destructive or negative way. We live in a world where discomfort is treated as something to be avoided and demonized, but I mean, that's like the only place where growth can occur. You can't get good if you don't feel like crap for not being good enough, right? And you're not gonna get better if you're trying to brute force your way into perfection or searching for some miracle formula that will let you skip off the learning. That doesn't exist unless you opt for AI Gen Slop. But I mean, who's that? But I digress on that point. If you feel stumped or lost, or you just came out of a session with a crappy drawing that you feel too embarrassed to show to your peers, instead of dwelling on them and spiraling into like a self-depreciating session, just take a step back from the canvas, okay? Let yourself process these feelings and sit with that discomfort for a little bit. This is fine. This is normal. If there's a will, there's gotta be a way, and I'll just figure it out tomorrow. No big deal. As frustrating as it can be, and trust me, I know exactly what you're probably feeling right now, it's also what makes overcoming them so rewarding and empowering, right? Like, yeah, hard stuff are not fun to deal with, but the difficulty is what makes overcoming them so fun. That's the whole point. So don't dwell on the bad days too much, and don't fixate on trying to cut corners or finding those secret hacks, because they especially don't exist. And most importantly, just let yourself cook, okay? You can't rush art. Number 3, poor focus. I know focus is a hard thing to come by in these trying times, okay, but look, drawing is quite an active process, and especially during the learning part, you're almost certainly leaving growth and quality on the table if you're just kind of half-assing it every time you do it. I'm not saying you have to treat every drawing and study session like you're being held at gunpoint or something. You can be loose and just go with the flow when you want to have fun and doodle around, okay? But if you're tackling a study or a big illustration that really demands your best performance, it's definitely not a good idea to keep that playlist or podcast in the background, okay? And it is especially not smart to be tabbing out into Discord or Reddit or Instagram or, God forbid, TikTok for a quick scroll back and forth. Because, like, if you're starting to focus on a drawing, what will happen when you have to stick with a big complex piece? Like, those things can take weeks and tens of hours or more, and it's very easy to just get bored and decide to call it quits there because you're so used to being able to habitually tap out of the canvas to doom scroll whenever a thing gets a bit dicey and uncomfortable. What about studies? Fundamentals aren't learned in just a day, a week, you know? You have to stick with them constantly for a month on end, constantly reiterating your past attempts and figuring out what needs to be improved and what has improved. Point is, yeah, it's hard to focus on anything nowadays when you're constantly surrounded by stuff that's been deliberately designed to grab your focus, but if you actually care about improving your art at a meaningful pace and also value your time and energy, you should probably focus up, okay? It's a skill that can be trained, and you'll be surprised just how much you can get done with, like, just 30 minutes of solid concentration, okay? Like, no joke, I once drew these two drawings in a single day because I was just so incredibly laser focused on just getting them done, okay? I was excited and I want to finish them. You got time, okay? Just log in, stop checking Discord. Number 4, excessive optimization. Sometimes we just get too caught up in the appearance of being an artist and the optimization for growth that we forget how simple things really are. Like, no, you don't have to plan a full college curriculum with art course and min-maxing each study session like your life's on the line or something. I think the online landscape may have over-dramatized it all with the whole have to get better than 99% of art in 2026 or this is why you can't draw. Like, no, calm down, okay? Just because you aren't seeing meaningful growth yet does not mean that it doesn't exist or that you secretly are sabotaging yourself. Art is a skill like any other. You get better with only time, focus, and commitment. Some has more to spare than other, and that's why our growth will always be different. It's very easy to needlessly stress over this imaginary ever-changing standard of, am I drawing enough? Am I good enough? Am I growing fast enough? Am I doing something wrong? Etc, etc. Like, I get it. I used to do it all the time too. It's a normal thing given the current state of the internet and the online landscape. But also, I personally find it all to be a massive distraction from the one and only thing that's actually going to help me improve, and that is just sitting down and actually drawing stuff. Instead of stressing over these imaginary, vague, ever-changing standards that will always feel unattainable because your brain is stupid like that. This art thing takes time. How much is dependent on so many variables that it's impossible to just make a blanket statement of, oh yeah, if you work this hard, you improve by this much, blah blah blah. If you want fast growth, you're going to have to work smart and hard. Constantly obsessing over finding the secret technique that will let you get ahead is not smart. Keeping an open mind and trying out new ways to test your existing idea is. And working hard is self-explanatory, okay? Get on that grind set. Point is, don't get too caught up in all the tips and tricks and all of that fun stuff that you spend more time optimizing your art than, like, actually doing art. You just gotta draw and put in consistent effort, okay? It's not that deep. Number 5, loneliness kills art and creativity. Lastly, and this one is kind of a personal one, it's not news that working on a bow is a pretty inefficient way to learn literally anything. That's the thing about learning, right? You can't be your own teacher. You need other people to bounce ideas around and help you discover a blind spot. It's why external feedback is so important, and it's why professional ones are so expensive. We're social creatures. Our brain are quite literally designed to reward itself through social interactions. And I get it, scary. Really scary, especially if I'm good at it. Like, I get it, I really do. I don't like to show people my less well-done piece because I have an ego and I want people to think I suck at art. But there's a lot more you'll be giving up here than just your ego or a sense of pride. First, you're just going to create an echo chamber that makes it very difficult to tell what's real and what's just self-depreciating BS that your brain likes to do. I don't need to tell that it's very easy to beat yourself down with your art. It's a lot worse than it actually is, okay? And that sense of insecurity and shame is only amplified when your only frame of reference is yourself. Truth is, there are millions of people out there who probably suck just as much as you. And yeah, you can say like, oh yeah, right, yeah, I bet I probably suck more than all of them combined, which is fair, but this is not a competition. The point is, you need living proof that being bad at something is normal, and it really doesn't indicate anything other than the fact that you're simply inexperienced. Like, we all know this obviously, but you don't really get to internalize it when all you have is your own messy broken doodles to look at. Secondly, people are just the freest piece of inspiration and fun. While art is a skill, it's also a journey, and journeys are best embarked upon with a good company. Instead of just sitting on your lonesome trying to come up with ideas on your own, why not participate in the collective sum of human knowledge and be exposed to a nearly incomprehensible amount of ideas from people with different backgrounds and upbringings and experience from yourself? As cool as just browsing through Pinterest or ArtStation are, you really can't beat actually getting to talk to people and seeing their art on a much closer level. My current art style is of equal part inspired by the artists I look up to online and the people I've accidentally stumbled into on this journey we call life. Because frankly, as artists, it's your responsibility to constantly be on the lookout for new experience and just stuff. And like, you're not gonna get any better than that with people, because they're just the perfect little walking gift box of newness. Not to mention how being surrounded by your peers can give a support and push you never realized you needed or could have imagined. Back in 2024, I did my first character portrait, like ever, period. All because it was a little requirement for a Secret Santa event I was participating in. I was definitely wary of joining because back then I had very little experience with drawing character art, but the community there gently nudged me into signing up anyway. And while the final result was it has a lot to be desired, it was still a start. And ever since then, I've been chipping away at my horrid character drawings, and honestly, it's at a pretty good state now. All because of a leap I would have never made on my own. You don't have to join a massive server or anything, okay? That's not the point. The main gist is that if you're finding yourself shying away from potential connection with other artists, you are absolutely missing out on a ton of growth, memories, and just fun. People are fun. And yeah, I understand that you may have experienced some crappy folks in the past and it's deterring you from leaving your show. I never said they're easy to break, okay? But it's so worth it. You owe it to your future self to at least give it another try. Being alone is the worst, trust me. Alright, scripted stuff with actual effort is over. Director commentary time. There was actually a lot more I wanted to fit in originally, but after going through like the first 5, I realized that if I if I try and fit in any more, it's gonna be like a 30+ minute vid, and I'm not editing that, okay? Like this one already is like the longest vid I've done, and this one was quite a pain to go through just because of the sheer length and like all of the B-rolls and the footage and the voiceover and just the art. It's a lot of work, okay? I don't want to do that much for a single vid. I'll probably just make a part 2 eventually. Maybe. I don't know, this YouTube thing is still quite confusing.